Hello F11 members and welcome to the Fundamentals of Post-Production video tutorials for issue 95, December 2019. On the screen here we have a picture from this month's How It's Done feature. It's a shot of the beautiful rolling countryside in the Cerne Valley. That's up Cerne, the house and church there in the frame there. Showing the last of the autumn colours clinging on in that beautiful valley. Some lovely, very soft but quite subtle side lighting on the scene there, just bringing out the colours. And I'm quite pleased with this picture. I like the subtlety of the tones and the colours. So let's go through the post-production on it, and if I just press tab on my key, I'll show you the image full screen here. There we go, without the confusing panels at the side. Bring the panels back again just by hitting the tab. And if you look at the before and after of this picture, you can see on the left there, I've just got the image straight out of the camera. And as you can see, hazy, lacking in contrast, lacking in punch, quite a radical difference to the picture on the right. So I just hit Y again to go back to the, or use this down here, that control there, to bring me back to my process picture, and just go back to where I started with the import. Now let's start working through the image and what I'm going to do to it. And as usual, we start with the black and with the white points. Usually, it's always the black that I start with. Don't ask me why, but it's not bad to develop these habits, is it? And if looking at the histogram, you can see how it's come in, how I expose the image there. Really, it's a camel's back just concentrated in the middle of the histogram display. So we can put a fair bit of contrast back into that picture now by just adjusting blacks and whites. And if I, as usual, hold down the Alt key, move the black slider until I start clipping blacks, and then do the same with whites, and I've made a start on this picture. Can't go, but I start losing the whites in the sheep there on the left of the frame. I'm not too worried about the odd white in the fleece of those sheep there, so I can come to round about plus 30 before I start losing whites in other parts of the picture. A bit more than that actually, plus 45-ish. Yep. And now what I need to look at is the overall brightness of the image essentially, and I'll use the tone curve here. Just grab a point on the middle, just pull down the tone curve until I've got the kind of density to the picture that I want. So I'm looking at the global overall density, and I'd say somewhere around about here's about right. In the foreground, that's certainly right. Top of the frame still looking too bright and too lacking in contrast due to the distance haze. Just going back into library module here, you can see the details of the image, how I shot this. Focal length, relatively long focal length of 214mm. There was quite a wind blowing, so I had to up the ISO to 400 there to keep the camera steady and stable, enable me to capture a sharp picture. So let's now then, I've used tone curve to put in a bit of density into the picture. And I'm going to use the dehazer just to try and cut down a little bit on that distance haze there. And as with always with this tool, it's tricky to get the level right. I can go way over like that, put in a load, and it really enhances the contrast in the distance. But I end up with a picture, the contrast in my foreground goes right out the window, and the colours as well start to look pretty sickly. So needs to be treated with discretion. So I'm just going to put in about half a tablespoonful of dehaze. In my book that's around about plus 15. I'm just trying to get that accurate there. So if I just highlight the actual number there, and now I can use my up and down Shift key on the keyboard to be more precise with my adjustments. And I'm just putting +15 in there for the moment. Okay, that's done. But the next thing I want to do now is use my Grad Tool again to deal with this distance haze. And I really only want to add a bit of dehaze to the top half of the frame. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key here, pull down a grad, just adjust the positioning of it so that essentially it's adjusting the top half of the image there. And now I'm going to put in a little bit more dehaze just on the top half of the picture. And again, not going too far, I'm going to go to +15 again on that. And that's dealt with that haze in the distance to a point. Now if I take all of that out, it starts looking false. If I go way up on my controls, you can see I can eliminate virtually all the haze, but I end up with a picture that just doesn't look right. So let's come back again on that, use the Shift on my keyboard to get the adjustment exactly right, +15, and I click on Done now. And I think that's, we're getting there. But the top half of the picture, again, the top third of the picture really is a little bit too bright. I'm just going to bring back the density on that. So I'm going to add another grad here. There's no limit to how many grads you can use. So I'm using 1 grad for dehaze and 1 grad for density. They overlap a touch, but that's okay, that's fine. Quite a nice soft grad on this now. And now I'm going to pull back the exposure here on this, on the top half of the frame. Just put in a softer grad there. And I come back to about minus 32. Put in an even softer pull on that. -45. And I think that's worked quite well. Let's just have a look now what I've done so far to the picture, and it's coming to me now, I think. But the right hand side of the picture here, where the sun is, the last of the sun is just painting this fields here. It's a little bright there, so I'm going to use the adjustment brush here now. Click on that. Click on Show Selected Mask Overlay. The shortcut for that, by the way, is an O on the keyboard. Just adjust the size of my brush there, quite a nice big one. And now I'm going to paint the area that I want to affect here, and essentially it's this sunlit area here to the right. I've got a soft edge to my brush, as you can see over here. Can you see feathers at maximum 100? So it's giving a nice soft edge to that. And I'm just going to paint in here the area of the picture that I want to affect. I don't need to be too precise because of the feathering there. Okay, now click off the mask overlay. Again, I can just use the O on the keyboard to do that for one. And now I'm simply going to pull back just a hint the exposure just on that area. Now if I go too far, you'll see obviously the area I've selected, so I need to be careful here. I'm just going to bring it back about around about 16. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Again, I can just highlight that and then use my keyboard, my Shift key, to get it about right. I think that -16 looks good. Click on Done. Push back my chair, have a final look at the image and ask myself, is there anything else that needs to be done? If in doubt, do nothing. I think the image just needs a touch more contrast. So I'm just going to use the contrast slider here to put in, again, about half a tablespoon in this particular case, +15 on that. Just a hint of contrast added to the picture there. How's my color vibrance? I've got +6, which is a default setting that I apply on import to all my pictures. It's just a starting point. It doesn't mean that that's what it has to remain at. And in this case, I can put in a little bit more, literally a teaspoonful. I'm going to bring it up to just a hint more, up to +10 there. And voila. Let's look at again before and after. Hit the tab on my keyboard to enable us to see those full screen. Quite a radical difference, I'm sure you'll agree. Quite a difficult picture to get right. Very easy to go too far on adjustments and end up with unbelievable contrast and unbelievable color saturation. So I'm pleased with that, nice and subtle. We'll be working on another picture from a location just literally half a mile away in part 2 of the fundamentals of post-production. See you there.